by the blood of our people are your lands kept safe.
I see in your eyes the same fear that will take the heart of me.
So do all who live to see such times.
By all that you hold dear, this good earth.
There's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we are talking about episode 5 of Lord of the Rings of Power. So we're just over the halfway mark, and things are really starting to happen. So without further ado, let's dive right in. We start this episode getting back to the Harfoots. So we come back and we see Nori, and she's talking with the Meteor Man and explaining what peril is, and basically the distinction between good and evil, or good and bad, I guess, is where she goes with it. And he brings up something that we've talked about, which is he killed fireflies. Yeah,
he seems distressed about it.
He does.
He's peril.
Yeah, he asks her if he's peril. She says, "No, you're good. The fireflies was an accident." That might be too high of a concept for him to understand, but yeah, I actually like this scene because we get a little bit more out of Meteor Man. He's starting to get a bit of a personality. So that was one thing that had been missing for me for a little bit. He was kind of just a blank, staring person, but now he's actually got some grief in his eyes. He's got a little bit of a not comedic role, but like there's a line here where they're talking about how her mom snores, and she's claiming she doesn't snore, and he kind of like looks down at her and like nods like, you do snore. So he's starting to like integrate into their society a little bit, like pick up on how to communicate, which is a nice step for him.
We get a musical number with a montage.
Yeah, now I didn't
Gonna need a montage.
Yeah, I didn't
Migration montage.
I didn't hate it. Okay, I didn't hate the song. There is a callback in the song. I thought it was okay.
Not all who wander are lost.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
So this is something Nerdrotic said, actually, is that he is gonna be Gandalf, and this is where he got that line.
He can't. So I don't think he is Gandalf, but I mean, we'll see. Nobody knows here. What I will say though is he tells Bilbo a line he learned from the Harfoots. Yeah, which, I mean, I guess it's kind of a fun little story, but I don't particularly like it myself either. Regardless though, regardless of the speculation, I actually didn't think we needed this montage. So I think because we had an entire episode that was Harfoot free, a time jump of them going from place to place, I already thought that had happened. So I guess they were just sort of showing it on screen to catch us up onto what the Harfoots have been doing. But I actually didn't really need it. So, it was a fine montage. We got to see the map again. I always like seeing the map, but I just thought it was I just didn't need it.
And then we see the crater being examined by, I'm just gonna call them the creepy people.
The creepy people, yeah. So I guess they are tracking this meteor, and they think that because they think that it's Sauron. Is that what we think about these people?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
And so they've tracked it to this crater, and they examine it, and I guess they conclude that it is, because they don't seem they seem like to exchange a look like we're on the trail, right? We're getting close. They don't seem to be confused or upset, but maybe I'm just not picking it up. So like that's why I actually still maintain that is Sauron, like Meteor Man is, because of some of the powers that he has shown.
The double fake out.
Yeah. Or there's a triple fake out, right? We've got 3 potential Saurons. We've got Adar, Halbrand, Meteor Man, and it's going to end up being...
Well, some people say Theo, too.
Or Theo. I think it's going to end up being Sadak Burrows, but that's that's a deeper plot. Okay, yeah, so we don't really get much time with these creepy people, right? We just kind of...
Nope. Not at all.
We see them on the trail, but that's about it.
So we go to Adar now, right?
Yeah, and this is a scene that was directly from the preview trailer for this episode. He's telling his orcs to ready the legions that they're preparing to march. But we also get we now have in-world understanding of what is wrong with the orcs and sunlight. They do burn. So
it's like fire.
Yeah, so it does hurt them to be in the light, which is different from Tolkien's lore. I don't know how many people are upset by that, like especially like considering all the other stuff we've seen. So like, I don't know if that's gonna be the last straw for anyone. But so we now know definitively sunlight does harm them, and it does not just make them uncomfortable. So I think that's a big change that we're gonna see a lot of people talking about. We still don't know much about Adar though, right? Like he still just has this presence to him.
And he wants to get rid of the sun to help the orcs. That was
Yeah, and but at the same time he's upset about it, right? Because
he's gonna miss it.
Yeah, because he's upset. Well, he kind of has like this emotion, like it's a shame that you can't feel this properly, because when you feel it, it hurts you, but it's actually very nice, and so I will be sad when it's gone. So there's a sweetness to it, but also there's a creepiness to it. So, but yeah,
Bronwyn.
Yeah. So Bronwyn has like taken charge of this place, it seems.
So she's like having a speech, and she wants to fight, and she gets people to raise their hands whether they want to go, and people do. But then Waldrick comes in and says, "No,
Yeah.
we're all gonna die. We should surrender." He says that how the ancestors did one thing right, and that's why they lived.
Yeah. So a couple notes that I have here is, one, she is the only person with color. Did you notice this? It's starting to really stand out to me. She's the only character in this entire village with color, which is her blue dress.
Yeah.
And everyone else is kind of wearing these ragged clothing pieces that are just falling apart. I'm sad that this guy is turning so evil so quickly. I was hoping we would get more with him, because I actually do like this actor. I think he's playing this character really well. So I'm sad to see him turn like this. Yeah. So we already expected this, based on the previous episode with his conversation with Theo, as well as sort of how he handled just elf talk in his tavern in general. He almost came along too strong, and we even pointed out how he didn't really try to silence the people in the bar until they started talking about the old ways, right? So then it was like, oh, shut up about that, like I'm gonna punch you. So yeah, I actually like the subtlety that's going on with this character, and now it's just out in the open. He's like, yeah, no, we're gonna go bow down to the orcs. Who's with me? And so about half the people go.
Rowan fought, and Rowan's one of them.
Yeah. Which we knew that was coming. Like, let's be real here. He's definitely going for the orcs. I'm surprised he wasn't already an inside man for the orcs. So yeah, this is.
And he explicitly asks Theo to follow, and actually cut away. They leave it vague whether Theo goes or not.
That's right.
At the end of the scene. Anyway.
That's right. Yeah, because I see. I don't know if he fully understands what the sword is, but he does know that it has some power, and that Theo being now almost a part of it, or at least like it's taken hold of him a little bit. He's reaching out to Theo for that reason, but also I think genuinely he's trying to save Theo. He thinks this is the right thing to do.
So I mean, I'm going to go on a tangent.
Yep.
But I mean, it would almost, to me, I wonder if there could be like a spin-off for Waldrick. Like, how did he get the sword in the first place?
Yeah, maybe he's Sauron. Waldrick is Sauron.
Has this been like, has he just inherited it for like 1,000 years, or is there like a story about how he came into the possession of the sword, or the hilt, or whatever you want to call it? I don't know, but I wonder if like that could be. That I am interested.
Me too.
I'm interested.
Me too. In fact, I'm gonna make an entire video dedicated to how he is Sauron.
So anyway, we end up at Numenor.
Yep.
And it's Elendil and Isildur, and Elendil won't let Isildur go to war because he's not qualified.
Yeah. So they had more than enough volunteers, and he is still. I mean, to be fair, I thought he was kind of doing this because he was worried for his son's safety, which might still be the case. But he claims that it's because other people have earned the right to make a decision to go on this adventure because they actually completed their training in whatever field, and so they should get top priority over someone like Isildur, who is really just kind of a bum in terms of being from Numenor, right? Like everyone else is doing a good job of whatever it is that they've been trained to do. He's been bouncing around projects. He keeps like flunking out of stuff deliberately. So he's not incompetent. He just deliberately sabotages himself because he doesn't like it anymore. Mm-hmm. So I fully support this decision. Like Isildur has no place. I mean, I don't trust him. I don't know what he's going to do. He might at some point just sink the ship for the heck of it. Like, I don't know. He's crazy.
Yeah. And I get the impression that Isildur's sister does not want war, and we have a shot of people accosting Pharazôn for allowing us to go to war with the elves.
Right. So in between episodes, it seems that there has been like two camps established: the people that want to help Galadriel and go to Middle Earth and fight, the people who don't, and there's weird, not alliances, but there's weird joining of forces between people who you would think might not be in agreement, because we've got Elendil's daughter, who we thought would maybe be a good character. She's joining who we think is the evil character of Numenor. But
I could see Hermhodas being like, well, my dad and my brother are going.
Right, exactly. So so that's why I'm like, they're not in an alliance or in like full agreement, but she's basically saying, I would rather join with this guy who has some bad ideas I don't like, but the one idea I thought he would have, which is let's not help the elf. I agree that I don't want to send our people to battle. So the fact that he's turned, everyone is freaking out, like, oh man, how did they get this guy to change teams and agree to help an elf when he's very clearly like anti-elf, I guess, is the position that everyone assumes he has.
Mm-hmm. And then Kemen confronts his dad about the issue too.
Yeah, no, so she tells him to do that, right? So yeah. She's like, you gotta talk to your dad about this, and he's like, he never listens to me. And she kind of grabs his hands and it's like, then speak louder or something like that.
If you ever want to hold my hand again, you must speak to him.
That's what I was getting at. So this is one of the lines of dialogue I cringe at in this episode. There's not as many as some other ones, but in this one, so he says, my father's, when I open my mouth, my father's ears close. She says, then speak louder. I don't understand what that is supposed to mean. Like, that is just so dumb. Like I get that they're trying to be deep and philosophical and epic. It falls really flat. You're just gonna be shouting at a deaf guy is basically the he does not think his son is very bright. He's not going to listen to his son. And his son is just trying to get with this girl. He doesn't care one way or the other. So really, like, this whole scene is just ridiculous to me. He could have just talked to his dad, just like asking his dad. We didn't need this, but I get they're trying to do the rom-com or rom-drom, whatever is going on between these two.
But that conversation doesn't happen yet, does it? I think that's...
Yeah, no, it happens right after...
Oh, okay.
Right after Isildur gets mad and storms off, we cut to Pharazôn being like walking out of this court. It's not the courtroom. It's the court, the Queen's court. He's walking out, and everyone's yelling. And then we get a cut to these two characters standing, and she's telling him, "You need to go talk to your dad."
Yeah.
So it's literally right as his dad is running out of the room as people yell. She's like, "Go talk to your dad and convince him to hate elves again."
And then we see Halbrand is forging stuff.
And he's like the best blacksmith we've ever seen.
Yeah. He makes an impressive sword. Yeah.
I don't understand what maybe there's something deeper there, because he's almost doing something that like Numenorians can't do.
Well, people are saying that's why he's Sauron, because Sauron was a great craftsman.
Ah, there you go. Wink, wink. This guy is almost too. But there's so many, like, unless this guy also has amnesia, there's so many instances here where it just, what is Sauron's endgame? If it is Halbrand and he knows he's Sauron and he's trying to do this something evil, what is he?
Well,
his plan is crazy.
See, I was gonna bring this up later, but like maybe Sauron for some reason actually does not have a plan to do anything right now. And Gil-galad, when he was like, we need to send Galadriel away, or else she's gonna awaken the evil she seeks to destroy. This is becoming that prophecy. When they try to stop the prophecy from coming true, they inadvertently make it happen.
Right.
By sending Galadriel on her way, they put her on the path where she met Sauron, and eventually brought Sauron back to Middle Earth, where she does make all this stuff happen.
If that's what happens, because that's
it's like an Oedipus thing. Yeah.
If that's what happens, because that's a pretty good theory. It really adds a layer of deeper lying subtext to her scenes in the original trilogy.
Like, by the way, I caused all this.
This is all my fault. That's why I wanted to speak to Gandalf and explain. But I actually met him when he was known as Halbrand.
Sauron would just be some blacksmith on Numenor if not for me.
Yeah, he just wanted to be a blacksmith, and I drove him to madness. Yeah, if that's what happens, that's hilarious. But it would be like I agree. Right now, the only character who seems like Sauron and has a plan is Adar. The other two either have amnesia or legit don't want to be Sauron and want to be good, but slowly they're being dragged towards bad things.
Yeah, he makes an impressive sword, and then he's called to a meeting with Muriel, Galadriel, and Pharazôn.
Yep.
And he mentions that they talk battle plans, and he says that they'll go after the watchtower of Ostirith next.
Yeah.
And Galadriel had volunteered Halbrand to reunite his people and participate, and we get that Galadriel smirk that everyone hates.
So she, once again, she is rubbing people the wrong way, because Halbrand has explained many times he doesn't want to go back there, and in order for Galadriel to get the queen to agree, she had to bring up his past, which he was trying to keep hidden. So it's another thing that she did against his wishes. And she basically volunteered him. And then when he finds out, like, she could have warned him about all this, but instead she waits until he's in the presence of the queen regent, that is. And it's sprung on him that, oh, this whole plan is reliant on him going and basically proclaiming himself king of the Southlands. Like, that's essentially their plan. And he's upset with her. Like, Galadriel is really not a nice character for people around her. Like, she's constantly mean to them, or not even considering their wants and needs. She's just bulldozing ahead her own thing. So I actually particularly like that about the character that we have here, because it does add conflict wherever she goes. So her scenes, they're full of conflict. Now, whether or not it's, forced or silly, whatnot, I still like the fact that she's not just a goody good that everything goes right for and nothing bad happened. Like, she almost died and she got mutinied, and she's basically at the mercy now of Halbrand. Halbrand has to say yes or no. He controls her destiny. So I like that she's kind of backed herself into this corner, and it has consequences, at least It theoretically could have consequences depending on what the decisions are from other people. But yeah, so Halbrand kind of he's not on board yet, so he storms out.
Yeah, and Muriel's called to meet her father.
Yes.
And we found out Halbrand got his guild crest by telling Therazon that Galadriel was heading to the tower with the king.
Oh,
So,
yes.
Because he's not allowed to be a blacksmith unless he has a crest.
Yeah. So that, like, when we first see him being a blacksmith, it does catch you off guard because we've already established he's not allowed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They gave him a crest to do that. Oh, and he also tells her to find another head to crown.
Yes, which I actually think is a neat idea because he's already told her it's a lie, like he's clearly lying, but he's told Galadriel, oh, I just found this on a dead person. So he's like, you could literally pick anyone and say they're the king.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting, potentially, because if he does turn out to be Sauron and we need a different king, we can just give anyone this stone and claim them to be king.
So we're back to the Harfoots.
Yes.
We're in a creepy forest, and they find wolf tracks. And Malva is blaming the stranger and tells Sadak that we should take their wheels.
Which, okay, so I was gearing up for this one. Take their wheels. So we now have more world building for the Harfoots, which is terrible. They should not survive. The fact that they both have this weird thing where if you get left behind, you're dead. But then they also sabotage you. So if you go against the clan, they steal your wheels and leave you to death. It's insane to me. Like I cannot believe that. Like, just don't let them into your community. Just say, hey, you got to go off. But you're gonna steal their wheels, strand them in the middle of this creepy woods with wargs running around. Like, what is going on with these Harfoots?
Mm-hmm.
They're the most evil, uncaring creatures we've got in this entire Middle Earth, and that's including orcs.
Since we see Malva gathering fungus, and then Poppy and Nori run to her to say they found a wolf, and we get like a fake jump scare as Nori and Poppy tell her that. And then the wolf actually does howl. And they all run. Eventually the stranger ends up tackling the wolf or something like that.
Yeah, he just grabs it. He just straight up grabs it and throws it.
And it's like a ground smash.
Yeah.
And then he does a ground smash to like repel all the wolves.
Yeah, now that hurt him or something. Like, he doesn't quite know his power.
It hurt his arm, yeah.
Which I guess it's kind of, so this is where I kept thinking this guy is Sauron. So in a couple scenes earlier, we saw the orc exchange with Adar, and Adar says, show me your arm. And then his arm gets burned. And then in this scene, we've got Meteor Man do a ground smash and his arm gets hurt. And then when he dips it into water, it gets really cold, which we know the Sauron does that as well. So that's why I keep thinking this guy is Sauron. At this point, there's three candidates. So any which way you go, it's a twist for some people, right? So yeah. Like, if it turns out to be Adar's the most obvious, so the twist would essentially be there is no twist. And then Halbrand and Meteor Man are both suspects as well, and I guess there's like a 50 for me. It's like a 50-50. I could go, I can see both ways. I like your idea of Galadriel essentially angering Halbrand so much he becomes Sauron. I think that's really funny, and it would go completely against any like feminist interpretation of this. But I'm personally I'm in the Meteor Man camp, I think, right now.
So we're back in Numenor.
Well, wait, we also get oh no, we don't. You're right. We're back in Numenor. We just see the injured hand yet. Okay.
Yeah. And so Galadriel ends up training the volunteers, which include Isildur's two friends.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if we want to nitpick, why are they using real swords that are freshly forged by Sauron. But
I guess she's that confident that they won't hit her. Yeah.
but like even before these new recruits were training with steel blades that were, I guess, now maybe we can say, oh, maybe they were dull blades, like from, like maybe they requested Halbrand to make dull blades for their sparring. But then why did he put such craftsmanship into it? Like he made these swords like really fancy, and if they're just like practice swords,
they're almost too nice.
So like it seems like this in medieval and fantasy stories that always stand out to me, because I would be fine to see them be training with wooden swords, and even maybe having some complain and say, hey, I want a real sword, and someone saying you're not good enough or something like that. Like we see that in Game of Thrones. I like that aspect. But here, Galadriel has been recruited to train them, and the challenge is for these guys, if anyone can land one blow on her, they get promoted. So there's a reward here if you can best the elf.
And though eventually the one friend, do you have his name?
I forget his name.
Verindor?
Something like that. Yeah. The guy that he got that.
Oh, I just lost your audio. I don't hear you. No. A little cut on her shirt.
Yeah, but I will say that the training was weird, because it was supposed to be a 1v1, became a 2v1, became a 4v1
until finally Hugh got one shot in.
And the only reason I think he gets it is because Galadriel decides to go super fancy and like spin into it a little bit. She almost set it up. But yeah.
And then we finally see Kemen confront his father, Pharazôn.
Yes.
And he says Pharazôn had stopped the king from going back to the old ways of being pro-elf. And Kemen tells his dad, I know my dad would rather die than take orders from an elf.
Yeah.
And that finally gets his attention. And then he tells his son that elves will be taking orders from us by the time this is done. And then he says that he has his own. Pharazôn is politicking. He has his own motives, and it's for Numenor to gain influence over the Southlands. Yeah,
which is like we said, his dad is clearly a smart guy. He's got his own plans. This kid, he just wants to impress his lady friend, and also is confused because he is not politicking. He's just like, oh, we should just, yell at this elf and tell her to get lost.
Yeah, why are we gonna die for this elf?
Yeah, and he's like, we're not dying for the elf. We're dying because we are going to be the ones controlling the Southlands, not the elves. That is something that I don't think we talked about, but it was on my mind while watching previous episodes. I can see a reason Numenor might want to help humans, even though they haven't gone to Middle Earth in a long time. I can see there being some benefits to having allies or close partnerships with some people or some species on Middle Earth, be it humans or dwarves. Because after you lose the trade with the elves, they're very isolated. Like it's going to be tough for them to maintain their wealth and their ways on their own out in the middle of the ocean.
Mm-hmm. So then we see Muriel talking to the king, and she tells him that she's gonna go to Middle Earth, and the king says, "Don't go. Darkness awaits you there." Yeah.
So the king, he's got dementia, but he at least remembers part of the vision he saw, and this is again going back to what you said earlier. These prophecies fulfilling themselves. The fact that he told his daughter about the Palantir, and then she touched it and saw the destruction of Numenor with the arrival of Galadriel. So then she thinks sending her away will save Numenor, when he saw probably a bit different vision, and he might know going with Galadriel to Middle Earth with Numenor is the destruction of Numenor or something like that. And so he's afraid, but he's also kind of losing it a little bit, so he can't really say too much other than darkness awaits. So yeah, I think it's pretty clear and ominous that Numenor has potentially gone in the wrong direction on all of these decisions so far.
You're back to the Harfoots, and they all like the stranger now.
Yeah, because he can fight off the warg, so we'll keep him around. Pretty good in a tight pinch.
So then we see the stranger freezing the water with incantations, and his arm starts to ice up. So he's like healing his arm. I think this is what he's doing. Then Nori touches his arm, and her hand starts to freeze too. And then eventually she goes flying back, and it seems like Nori is scared of his power now, and she runs away when he turns to talk to her.
Yeah, so I actually wanted her hand to be damaged. I actually thought this is a good moment to show the danger of the Meteor Man or the stranger, whatever we want to go with, because she's reaching out to comfort him and to help, and that ends up harming her. To me, it doesn't seem like it did. So it seems like her hand is okay. I really had hoped it would hurt her. Not that I actually like this character, but I wanted there to be a harsh lesson in getting mixed up with these powerful beings and how even just being around them, you're in jeopardy because of what they can do. So I thought that was a missed opportunity to have a really severe lesson here. Instead, she just kind of is now scared of him a little bit, but she was fine. She's barely hurt, so I don't really know why she's freaking out so much. I mean,
yeah,
you saw what he did to those wargs, so you've probably felt a bit of that wind blast yourself.
Yeah. So now we're in Lindon with Elrond, Durin, Gil-galad, and Celebrimbor, and they are toasting, along with other elves. They're sitting around this table, and they're toasting a union between the elves and the dwarves.
Yes.
And Gil-galad asks how Khazad-dûm was so successful so quickly. And Durin says something snarky, right?
Yeah.
And then Elrond de-escalates. We don't see a lot of de-escalating in TV shows anymore.
We don't,
so,
and this is why I think you and I are one of the few that have really been praising the character of Elrond. It's not the Elrond we knew from Peter Jackson's movies, but this guy is actually learning. He's one of the few characters learning lessons and actually understanding them and showing that in his follow-up actions. So here, he knows both his own king's harshness as well as dwarven culture's harshness. And he knows that the elves and dwarves are out of touch with each other. And he wants everyone to be friends. So I actually really like this scene. I think it's one of the better written scenes in the entire show so far. I always love a good dwarf versus elf battle of wits and dialogue there. I like having dwarves and elves at a little bit of odds with each other.
Yeah, and Elrond offers that explanation of their lives, having a shorter lifespan. Dwarves will try to produce more in a shorter amount of time.
Right, and also elves maybe forget what, like, because it seems like nothing to them. Elves will forget to even find out what new technological innovations the dwarves are creating. They won't even notice the slow progress between 20, 30 years. They'll just say, oh, how did that happen in the blink of an eye? Well, it didn't. 20 years is a long time. We've been developing and honing these techniques. So there is a real explanation here that if the elves already didn't have some inkling as to the answer to that question, there is a answer that is perfectly logical to me, which is we just really haven't been keeping tabs on the dwarves. They've really come a long way here in the last couple 20 years, 40 years, whatever, really honing that skill of mining. So that's what we're seeing. It's just a sharpened craft.
Gil-galad tells Durin he can take the table home after we find out that's a sacred material that's not for tables.
Yeah, no, I actually, at the time of that moment, I was like, oh, maybe there's a story here about some ancient dwarf king gifting this table to the elves. Like, where did the elves find this table?
Yeah.
So I actually thought there was going to be more to that. I guess we'll get to
that
it.
later.
we'll get to it.
And we do find out Gil-galad knows about Mithril, and he had ulterior motives the whole time.
Yeah, which we already suspected.
And we have a little side shot, like a little, what do you call it? A flashback, a visual?
Yeah, it's like it's a flashback, but unclear if we're actually seeing the events or if this is just the story, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know if it's true or not. I would think it's true, because in Lord of the Rings, a lot of these stories are true. But yeah, this is a neat scene.
We have this legend of an elf and a Balrog battling on top of the Misty Mountains there's a Silmaril hidden inside a tree. And then, the Balrog hits the tree, and then the tree, catches on fire, and then the light of the Silmaril gets infused into the ore of the mountain.
Yeah, so that's what I gathered from this was that the tree, so the elf infused the tree first, and then when the Balrog tried to burn it down, somehow the joining of the elf magic with the Balrog fire magic kind of made this tree have its own magical properties, which allowed it to get its roots down into the mountain. But then that somehow also became rock when it fused into the mountain, and that is what we now know as Mithril, is the root system of this ancient tree that was infused with both elf and Balrog magic kind of joining together here. It was a pretty cool story. I actually really liked this visual too. I thought it was very stylistic in terms of having a lot of the things were glowing and stuff against like a very darkened backdrop. I thought it was a really pretty scene. I'm interested to hear what a lot of the naysayers think of something like that, which is, I believe, in Tolkien lore. So I think this is one of those moments where people who are even upset with some of the aspects of the show.
Well, it made me think, because I mean, again, I'm not that up on the lore, but I know Glorfindel supposedly defeats a Balrog
right
in the first stage. So it made me think, maybe that elf is Glorfindel. I don't know.
Right, so that's what I mean. Is like, if this, we don't know the name of this elf, and maybe this is a different story for all we know, but either way, like, just this visual alone, I think, is what a lot of people would like, because it has a lot of the elements that we wanted. Also, this Balrog looks like Peter Jackson's Balrog.
Yeah.
So it's got that going for it. It's got the fire whip. Like, the whole imagery of that scene just looks fantastic to me. You've got light on one side with the elf. You've got darkness, cloudy darkness with the Balrog on the right. And then the tree in the middle. It's half on fire, half got beams of light on it. I just thought it was a really pretty visual, and I thought it really worked for me, because then it kind of gives us a deeper understanding of Mithril. This is how you world build, by the way. We've talked about this in other videos. One of our videos that did really well recently, we talked about this, how you can't just throw in random fantasy jargon to world build. You have to have stories like this that then add a layer to Mithril, which we just thought was just strong rock that you could make into weapons and armor. We didn't think too much of it from Peter Jackson's movies. We knew it was valuable, but now we know that there is an even deeper reason that it is so hard and so strong and lightweight, because it's got these magical properties. So we have this whole thing now coming all the way back around to Frodo wearing Mithril, right? So that whole thing, that is how you make people really feel immersed in the world. You can now watch Frodo wearing Mithril and know about this scene here. Now, obviously,
so I think this is a little lore breaking, because that's actually not what Mithril is.
Well,
Mithril
but what I'm saying is, like, that's how you would world build in a world. Like, you're right. I'm talking about just from some Amazon's.
So, like, apparently Numenor has Mithril mines as well.
Ah.
That's something that's from the lore.
Okay.
Or the Tolkien.
Well,
lore.
and that's what I said. Maybe this is just a story that the elves believe or whatever. But my point is, it world builds the world that we're watching here of Amazon's Rings of Power world. This has now opened up a lot more. It's not just a throwaway line about like cream or just random bits that don't seem to make sense without any other context. So anyway, I liked how they told this story, but yeah, it potentially breaks lore. I don't know if the elves are just either don't know what Mithril is and this is just a story they have, or if this was Gil-galad lying. Like, I don't know.
If it is just a story, that means that this getting Mithril will not do anything for them because it has nothing to do with the Light of the Valar.
That's right.
But anyway, Elrond insists on keeping Durin's secret, and then
which is big. He is being confronted by his king, who knows, by the way. Like, this is where it gets really weird.
Well,
the
it gets
king
a little
knows.
silly because the king knows, and then he's like, "Well, you saw it, right?" And he's like, I can only tell you I saw something secret. I'm not allowed to tell you what the secret was.
So while I'm watching this, I'm like, so that's a yes. That's a yes. They found Mithril. I can't tell you though. No.
All I can tell you is that they have a secret, and I'm not allowed to reveal that secret. But Gil-galad, see, this is what Nerdrotic said, but Gil-galad's too stupid to realize that he is sitting there as Mithril.
Well, this is so it's not like, okay, it's hard to break this down because it's really weird. He is asking him point blank, do dwarves have Mithril? And Elrond goes, I swore an oath, I can't tell you. If it was no, you would say no. So it's clearly yes. Like, so to me, I'm like, so this is actually a loophole. He is now out of breaking his oath to me. Like, the elves already knew about Mithril. They're just like, we need true confirmation that they have it. So, but for me, he's already out of his oath. They know about it. They know he knows about it. Like, everyone knows. But they keep this thing going for like 2 scenes, because he does it at the dinner table. They do it again at the tree in that clearing where we see where he grants Galadriel and all of her mutineers passage to Valinor. That tree has now been corrupted.
Yes, so the tree is sick, and the light of the Eldar is fading, and Gil-galad asks again if they have Mithril, but Elrond still says, I can't tell you whether they have Mithril or not.
Yeah.
So I said I would keep whether they had Mithril or not a secret.
Yeah. Now, if it were in
can you imagine the secret is Durin pulls him aside and says, our secret is we don't have Mithril. What's that? Well, we don't have it.
Yo, what are you talking about, Mithril? We dwarves have been up and down these mountains. No such thing. Yeah. So it's a pretty silly scene.
We're only pretending to have Mithril
so that we can.
Like, remember Game of Thrones when the richest guy in that city, what was it called?
Well, like, we know Tywin is out of gold.
No, we're talking. No, the one when Daenerys is visiting one of the free cities.
Oh yeah.
And the richest guy in the city just has an empty vault.
Yeah.
And it's all show.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's what it is. This is what the dwarves are doing. They're pretending to have Mithril so they can have like power, but they don't actually have anything. It's a whole bluff.
Yeah, they just have a shiny rock that they gave Elrond, who doesn't know any better, and he's like, oh, this is Mithril.
And then Gil-galad's asking whether they have Mithril or not, and Elrond says, well, I swore an oath.
Yeah.
But maybe it is vague. Maybe Gil-galad thinks they have. It's just made to think by the dwarves that they have Mithril, but they don't have Mithril at all.
Right. Now, I like I said, in a sillier scene, in a more severe scene, I think this line of dialogue and the actions from Elrond would come across as a lot more heroic. Here, it's just because you're so frustrated with the conversation.
It's so obvious they have mithril. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought this was gonna be an easy way out for him, where like, oh, they already knew about the mithril, and they just sent me to befriend the dwarves. So I'm not even like, there is no oath now. Like, they already knew about mithril.
Yeah.
But instead, he ends up holding on to this oath, and like feeling bad about it, because I'm not really sure what the king wants. So like, even if Elrond says yes, they have mithril, that doesn't save the elves. They still need to get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just confused.
They bring up again that they sent Galadriel away from provoking the enemy, and that's when I had that thought that this is them inadvertently sending her off, and then she ends up like, do you know what? If you didn't want her to provoke the enemy, just send her north. She should keep going north.
Yeah, tell her to keep tracking Sauron to the north.
She's still up there, okay?
Well, no, because this is the thing. He thought, so, okay, this is something that maybe we'll get into in like a completely on its own video, but what is Valinor in both Tolkien's works, but also what is it in this show? Because in Tolkien's works, it's happy to go there, but in this show, it's sad to go there. So we'll get to it in a bit, but it's unclear if it's even a promotion to go to Valinor. Like, it seems like death.